Howdy, this is Lemmy with RevZilla, here to talk to you today about National Cycle Windscreens. You should be looking into a National Cycle windscreen if the wind in your hair is sort of starting to make you tired. These are currently being made for a pretty large variety of motorcycles. Some of the screens are going to be direct fit replacements, and then there's going to be other things that are a little bit more universal in nature. So while I do encourage you to use our bike finder to determine the stuff that will fit your bike exactly, know that not every single bike will have an exact fitment, and there are some universal options that could be great for a lot of bikes. You might have to take a little bit to figure out what's going to be perfect for you. Installation on these really is kind of a crapshoot across the board. It's going to be vastly different depending on what kind of bike you're working on and what you're installing. But I'm going to say almost all of their products up here are going to fall maybe into the difficult one beard category. Really nothing too awful difficult. Basic hand tools and under an hour in the garage should get you through the job pretty well. So let's get right into things. National Cycle has been in the game for a long time. They have been making windshields and motorcycle stuff forever, since 1937 in fact. I mean, that's like really a long time when you consider it. So they're no strangers to making things correctly. They've had years and years and years to pioneer some advances. One of their large claims to fame is using polycarbonate for motorcycle windshields. Polycarbonate is a little bit different than acrylic. Now you may hear these things used under various trade names. Polycarbonate typically is referred to as Lexan, and those of you who are familiar with acrylic probably understand it better by its trade name, plexiglass. So National Cycle really is a big proponent of using polycarb for their windshields, and the reason for that is that polycarb is a very strong material. They've also found ways too to apply various coatings to these to make them very impact resistant and to keep the optical clarity at a really high level on these. So that's something that's important to remember. It's something that's kind of cool. I would encourage you to shoot on over to their YouTube. They have a video where they sort of put a torture test against a standard acrylic shield versus one of their polycarb ones. It's really kind of cool. They throw all sorts of stuff at them. Literally, they are throwing things at them. You can see how well the polycarb holds up. Spoiler alert, they do use two separate firearms in the testing, so I'll wait here while you go watch that video. I'm assuming you're all coming back from the video now. Let's keep going because you just hit pause. So when we're looking at their lineup, National Cycle makes a lot of different things. Their lineup breaks up pretty well. So I'm going to kind of talk about a couple of the things you're going to see up here, how they break things up, and what things might be most appropriate for your bike. So over here, to my right, your left, I'd like to introduce you to a couple of their bike-specific fairings. Now when I say bike-specific, these are pieces that are meant to replace a piece that came on your motorcycle. So for instance, up here you can see a VStream shield. Down here we have a Wave windshield. This would be for a Harley touring bike, specifically a road glide. What these are going to do is bolt in place of your OEM plastic. So it's going to be great for those of you who have broken something, or perhaps you found that you either want a different look or different protection. So let's talk about this piece up here, the VStream. One of their most popular designs. You're going to see this for a lot of metric motorcycles. And the VStream is so named specifically because of its shape. You can see this tapered V here. Now that tapered V shape does a couple of things. Remember how I had said that these guys have been in the game for a long time? Well, way back in the old days, they sort of turned the entire industry on their head by making a windshield wider at the top than it was at the bottom. And it seems kind of obvious now, but at the time nobody was really doing that. The wider section was always the bottom. But what that did by putting this V-shaped channel into things was basically gave a rider this area of calm wind in the cockpit. And it kept the wind moving over you. Rather than having a rider get their head and their shoulders and chest buffeted with the wind really beating them up, this V-shape to the windshield actually provides a nice little pocket for the rider to hang out in. Similarly, down here with the Wave windshield, you see this is for, as I had mentioned, for a Harley touring bike. You'll notice these little indents here on the side, and these perform a very similar function. They're going to keep that air coming up and to the side. So rather than air sneaking behind the shield and buffeting your helmet or your head, or perhaps just sort of beating up your chest and your shoulders, really making you fight to stay in the saddle, what this does is deflects the wind off of you and around. So both of the shapes you can see here are pretty important. In a wind tunnel, it's very easy to see that wind just moving right past the rider rather than kind of beating them up. Now the other thing you can check out here too, these are both pretty heavily tinted. So with most of these options, you're going to have sort of a number of choices you can make. Level of tint is going to be one of them for most bikes. The other one you might notice too is there's going to be different heights. So if you're a taller rider, a shorter rider, or you just find that your existing screen is sort of leaving you getting buffeted just the way the air flips off of it, you can pick up a different shape or a different height screen and also tailor the look to your bike. Again, that deep tint looks pretty nice on sportier motorcycles. Again, those of you guys with Harleys that are all blacked out, it's a nice option to be able to hit some of those tinted items. Now there's some of you out there who are going to say, well, wait a second, I don't have a bike where I would replace a screen. I'm not on a sport bike, or perhaps I'm not on a Harley Davidson with a fairing. What do I do? Well, that's where an item like the Deflector comes in. So I have a soft spot in my heart for the Deflector. I rode behind one of these for 40 or 50,000 miles. I had one of these for years and years and years. I kept just moving from bike to bike to bike. But these are great because they offer a really innovative mounting system. Most typically, bikes without a fairing will have a handlebar, which is a great place to mount a windscreen. Now, the National Cycle Deflector is a favorite design of mine, specifically because you do have a couple of different size and tint options, as you do with the others. So you can pick something that's either going to give you just a little bit of minimalist protection, keep the, just keep that area on your chest from getting beat up really bad, or you can go with something larger like the Deflector you see up here that will give you sort of a nice pocket to ride in. But the reason I think I like these so much is I would say, in my mind, these are almost more useful than the bike-specific ones, specifically because of this mounting system back here. So I love this mounting system because these mounts are almost micro-adjustable. You can adjust the pitch, you can adjust a lot of things, the height to a certain degree. There's a lot of adjustability in one of these. So it's kind of funny. I think that folks who wind up with these always wind up spending a little bit longer on the installation. It's not so much the actual installation that takes longer, it's the ability to fine-tune. Once you get a really calm pocket back there, a lot of people do want to play around and see if they can get it just right. So the Deflector is a fantastic option for those of you guys riding naked bikes, cafes. Maybe you just want to chuck something on there for the long trips. Because this system does go on and off the motorcycle very easily. It's very easy to leave the mounts attached to your handlebars. They're very unobtrusive. They don't look bad at all. But you can just slap the screen on there. Again, you can put something nice and large on there when you're heading down the road and you don't want to get beat up for 6 or 8 hours you're going to be spending in the saddle. Those of you who've done any long-range touring know that especially when you're sitting down on the bike, you have to keep pulling yourself back up to the bars. It really can wear out your upper body. A windscreen really can save you a lot of effort. So rounding things out too, I really like about National Cycle is that they think about the entire wind protection spectrum. They're not just making shields and call it a day like some of the manufacturers out there. Instead, they're thinking really about all the things that are going to make your ride a little bit better that have to do with wind management. So let's check out this vent right here. This is a great piece. So those of you guys on Goldwings know that all the later model Goldwings, sure, you have the window vent, but not every single Goldwing ever made did. So what National Cycle did here is actually really ingenious. They made a copy of the OEM vent. Now this will either bolt into an existing Goldwing that has a vent, if you should have broken yours. A National Cycle should bolt right in there. But the other thing that's really cool too is if you're looking to add a vent to your bike, let's say your factory glass doesn't have that, not only can you pick up a National Cycle screen, you can also pick up a vent and add a vent to your new National Cycle windscreen. So you can kind of give your bike the upgrade that Honda wound up giving all the other bikes later on down the line. One of the other cool things I think they sell that I really like here are these hand deflectors. Anybody who's spent any time riding in the cold knows how terrible it is. If you can keep the wind off your hands, it's one of the best ways to not only keep your hands warm, but also help keep your core warm as well. Now, unlike adding bark busters, one of the larger dirt-oriented handguards to your bike that can really spoil the looks of things, these are very, again, non-obtrusive looking items. That clear polycarb is not very hard on the eyes, and the install on these is particularly ingenious. This particular set you're looking at here for a Harley Sportster, these mount direct to the mirrors. It's really a very easy on, very easy off, and it saves you from having to cut up milk jugs or do whatever other goofy thing you've been doing for all these years trying to stay warm when you're out there trying to extend your riding season just a little bit. Now, if it's not immediately apparent, I really do like National Cycle. Like I had said, I spent 40 or 50,000 miles behind a Deflector. I had a ball on that thing, but don't take my word for it. Click that info button either on your computer or your fancy internet cell phone and check out what some other riders who are rocking National Cycle products on their bike have to say about them. Of course, if you need immediate assistance, like always, feel free to get in touch with one of our gear geeks, 877-792-9455, or you can always drop us an email too, cs@revzilla.com. I'm Lemmy, I'm out of here.